Ho ho buddies, welcome to Borderline Games. I'm Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head, part 7. Last time, Yua was revealed to not be who she said she was. She seems to be doing some research into the New Gen murders, and she's confronted me about something. She's confronted me about the fact that our conversation with Shogun, Shogun's messages were sent the day after, and they were sent from the Room 37 PC at the At Cafe, which is where I go every evening after school. So she's concluded that I am also Shogun as well as Neidhart. Let's see if she's right. Let's carry on. Don't look at me. Oh yeah, that's what he said, wasn't it? This Shogun. Don't look at me. Is you. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to hear anything. Time is not a constant. Oh yeah, was that a delusion? Because I had clicked the green delusion button. There are contradictions in my memories. There are errors in my point of view. Unreliable narrator alert. The Earth isn't spinning. This is just another game. I stuffed my mouth with some fish sausage as I turned on my PC. Fish sausage sounds disgusting. I'm not me. Before long, my monitor shone brightly with the Seira wallpaper. This world. I went straight to ESO and opened it up without an ounce of hesitation. Isn't the one I belong to. Chapter 2. Click me. Oh, hello. Vroom vroom. Quick, get on if you're going on the field trip. All aboard! Lying face down on the floor, Nishijiri Takumi held a coloured pencil in his hand. The one he was currently using was yellow, having switched from a red one only a few minutes ago. He joyously ran his pencils across the spread out sketchbook, which he was nearly lying on top of. Takumi loved drawing pictures. He would always doodle on the edges of his notes during every lesson at school. The morning news had been left running in the background, but since news and the like was boring to a 4th grader like Takumi, he did not pay it any mind. Vroom vroom, candy get your candy here, only 300 yen? He was drawing a yellow bus and pretending he was the driver. All ashore, that's going ashore. We're headed out, vroom! As he imagined the scene in his head, he made it actually happen in the picture. Times where he would get too excited and accidentally draw on the tatami beneath him were not exactly infrequent. You can see there, right? Nanami, who would always read manga beside him, would scold him each time he did it. She had some nerve considering she was his little sister. She was the little sister, usually saying things along the lines of, "Oh, come on, don't get the floor all dirty." Even so, Takumi never became any less immersed in his art. However, when he got to the point of drawing the people in the window, his hand suddenly stopped. Then he ripped up the sketchbook and threw it away. On the previous day, on the day where the autumn field trip had only been one more day away, Takumi had suddenly been told by his parents that he couldn't go, even though it had been something he had been looking forward to for a very long time. So much so that he'd been in a constant state of excitement for the entire day. Aww. Wanting the next to arrive as soon as possible. That cruel declaration from his parents was something Takumi absolutely could not accept. He kicked and screamed, saying he would definitely go no matter what. But it was no use. His parents would not listen no matter what he said, choosing only to repeat the same words again and again. You just can't. We're doing this for you, Takumi. Takumi sank into his bed and trembled with so much frustration, he was very close to ripping his futon to shreds. He resented his parents from the bottom of his heart. For Takumi, that field trip had been a big, big event that could not have come soon enough. Everyone else in his class could go, but he alone was not allowed to. From his perspective, that was beyond unreasonable. Takumi was in a lonely world, Everyone else was in a super fun world. To him, it felt like he alone had been completely cut off from it. He could not forgive the teacher, his classmates, anyone. They'd all left him behind. And he especially could not forgive his parents for their sudden unfair decision. Wonder why they did it? Those feelings transformed into pure hatred toward his parents and toward all of his classmates. Takumi bit his lip hard enough to draw blood. He muttered curses at them over and over. I don't think anyone should be allowed to go. Oops. I like to do that, don't I? I don't think anyone should be allowed to go. The following morning arrived. The phone had been ringing over and over again since dawn. Each time his mother would pick up the phone, she seemed to be very shaken while talking. Takumi could not get even a wink of sleep. The clock passed 9 AM. In her usual well-behaved manner, Nanami was sitting on the floor cushion, reading manga. She told Takumi the day before, "I'm going to take a break from school to keep you company, Kay?" As if she thought it was the obvious thing for her to do. Their father had already gone to work, so he was not around. Their mother was very busy with the phone calls and had yet to prepare breakfast. There was no need for him to go to school that day. Sullen as he was, Takumi opened the sketchbook and began drawing to distract himself. His feelings of rage refused to subside as he tore up the sketchbook in frustration. As he did that, however... Huh? Hey, that bus! Nanami sounded puzzled. Takumi had thought she was talking about his picture, but her gaze was actually aimed at the TV. Hey! Mommy! Nanami called out loudly to her mother, who was still busy with the phone calls. Now listening, Takumi followed her sister's gaze and stared vacantly at the TV screen. The screen displayed a scene of a collapsed elevated highway. A section that was only about 50 meters long had fallen. The bus crashed. Regrettably, a bus driving along there at the time had been caught up in the collapse, toppling onto its side beneath the overpass. Oh my god. So had his parents seen that the bus was going to crash and refused to let him go? It was the very same bus that Takumi should have been on. The bus his classmates were riding on. From just a single glance, Takumi could imagine exactly what had happened. His classmates were on the screen. One child was sobbing, another one had blood all across their forehead, and another one was lying atop a stretcher being carried into an ambulance. The reporter was announcing the state of the accident with a grave look on their face, but Takumi did not really understand what they were talking about. Taku-chan, it's awful! His mother was standing at the entrance to the room holding a cordless phone. Her face was pale. The bus for the field trip was in an accident on the highway. It's on TV right now. And Mr. Sato died. Oh. For some reason, Takumi was already sure of this. Everything happening on the TV was eerily similar to what he'd pictured in his head the night before, when he had been overwhelmed by frustration and hatred. No, he didn't do it. Did he? There was only one feeling that occupied the depths of his mind, a peculiar conviction. One where he was sure that he had precognitive abilities. Long ago, a show on TV that examined people who claimed to have ESP had been etched into Takumi's mind. A person with precognitive abilities had appeared on the show, shocking the world by demonstrating frightening ESP in the experiment. The experiment verified whether or not the psychic could guess which of the 12 items were placed in which numbered box. They did this by placing the subject in a random room, in a different room, then proceeding to have them predict which cards with the item on them belonged to which box. Afterwards, staff members in the room would place the actual items into boxes, then verify how many the psychic foretold. The person on the show received an incredible 90% correct, causing an uproar among the entertainers. As this happened, Takumi tested if he could predict things the same way the psychic on TV did, only to get every single one correct. Of course, he did not tell anyone else about this. Why not? He seems like the type of guy that would. So as he gazed up at the TV, he believed that the accident was yet another instance of his precognitive predictions being exactly right. Is this something that he's forgotten as an adult? Because he's not mentioned this. It sounds like over half the class was injured. Oh, how awful. His mother tried hugging him as he lay down, but Takumi avoided her grasp and crawled to the corner of the room. But I'm so relieved. Her eyes swam about as she whispered in a hollow voice. I'm so relieved that I made you stay home, Taku-chan. Takumi felt sick. They were useless, he thought to himself. His abilities had not made a single difference. Just thinking about it made his heart turn to ice in an instant. After that, Takumi stopped speaking to others for a while. For a long time. He quite literally went mute. He did not say a single word to another soul. Oh, that's sad. His parents worried about him and their already overprotective habits escalated even further. Finding them to be acting more and more ridiculous, Takumi thus decided to play the role of a mute boy. He thought of it as revenge against them. Okay, it's not so sad. Due to his complete lack of talking, his mother took him to be seen in the psychiatry ward of the general hospital, and there he was diagnosed with PTSD. Because of what happened with the bus, or... Since Takumi did not actually have PTSD or anything of the sort, he never once took his medicine, he merely pretended to. His parents never realised he was acting, and in the end, he didn't feel even a hint of pity, as they worried themselves sick over him. Okay. An abrupt cut. Everything felt like a lie. The world was filled with falsities. It was overflowing with malice. It was out to get me. Please, log into the chat room you always use and take a look. Then you'll understand what I'm saying is true. And everything I said, it was all genuine. I hope you can at least believe me about that. After bombarding me with her nonsensical theories, Yua had said that one last thing before she'd left. There was no way I could believe her. How the hell was I supposed to believe someone that had been lying to me this entire time? I refused to believe that everything there was me, like Yua had said. Everything she'd said about me being Shogun was a total joke. I wanted to believe that. But when I checked the timestamps in the chat log, there was no mistaking that the conversation wasn't matching up. Have I been sleepwalking? Problem was, during the time Shogun appeared to be posting in chat, I hadn't been sleeping at all. If I recalled correctly, I had indeed been at Cafe at that time. But I hadn't slept, so I couldn't have been sleepwalking. In that case, I wondered why I didn't have any memories of posting as Shogun. Maybe my body had been being controlled by someone else, which would mean... No, that's ridiculous. I felt that the best way to calm myself down was to escape from reality into the fictional world of ESO. In ESO, everything was fake, a lie. At the end of the day, its world was just part of a video game. But in Baselard, I could become the godlike existence known as Neidhart. A fabrication like that, a lie like that, was something I'd readily accept. I wanted to stay there. Nobody would mind if I did, would they? Or maybe the world of ESO was actually the real world, and my own reality was the fake one, just a game. In that case, Nishijo Takumi would be a fictional character, and Neidhart would be my true form. Hey, Neidhart. I called out to the paladin standing inside the monitor. Was I controlling you, or were you controlling me? Which was it? Could you be real and I a mere avatar? What if the world I was in was just a game in and of itself? If that were true, that would solve every mystery I was struggling with. What if, just like how I was staring at Neidhart within my monitor, what if someone was staring at me in the exact same way? Whose eyes are those eyes? That would make them the player controlling me. If I did have someone controlling me, would it kill them to do less of a shit job? Though I guess an avatar couldn't really complain. It would also explain how Shogun and I could be the same person, validating that theory. Come to think of it, it was kind of like what Lissalot was saying. Neidhart and Lissalot couldn't possibly exist in Baseland at the same time. I was the only one playing as them after all. Maybe Shogun and Nishijuru Takumi were similar and couldn't exist in the world at the same time. It was also possible that it was a bug. Speaking of bugs, encountering that bizarre girl in a murder case, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff that had happened, could have been bugs too. The image Shogun had sent me flashed through my mind. I gripped my head with my hands frantically and shook it away. I wanted to run away from everything. If, maybe, just maybe, there was a player controlling me. Please reset me already. Just remake my character and start from scratch, please. Oh. There we go. The waiting room of the university hospital was filled to the brim with middle-aged people waiting to be examined. The view hadn't changed from a few years prior. It almost made me feel as if time itself had stopped there. Moreover, everyone there looked miserable, and the smell of disinfectant pervaded the stagnant air. It was the kind of place that sucked all the life out of you and made you wish for the sweet embrace of death in 5 minutes tops. I didn't like hospitals. When are we now? The way the lobbies had countless people, yet the corridors beyond felt completely devoid of them, had always freaked me out, ever since I was a little kid. It almost felt like the corridors themselves absorbed and stewed in the stench of death. I always felt like that was what a hospital truly represented beyond its outer facade. I even thought that some horrifying creature was lying in wait deep within the corridors. That was why I really didn't want to go there. But there was something I had to make sure of, no matter what. So I found myself reluctantly waiting my turn in line for an examination. Even when I'd tried to fully immerse myself in ESO, the bombshell that Yua had dropped on me continued to swirl around and around inside my head, and I hadn't been able to concentrate for even a second. As a result, my mind had been torturing me with all the various possibilities all the way until the morning, and I'd been genuinely scared that something was wrong with me. That was why I went to the hospital, to get an official stamp of approval from a medical professional that said Nishijuru Takumi is completely normal. I wanted to prove that it wasn't me that was abnormal, but Yua. I was used to coming to the hospital's psych ward, and yet when the grill at the reception asked if this is your first time, I nodded without thinking. Grill. Just means girl. Cool. I mean, I could have worked that out. Ever since that bus accident, my mother had regularly taken me there for checkups. During middle school, my physician said that I'd completely recovered, and I stopped going after that. This was my first time looking back in about 4.5 years. First time coming back. Oh, okay, cool. We did green last time, let's do red. My first physician had been a senile professor who was supposed to have some authority in the field, but I'd only seen him a few times, and after that someone else had taken over. A student of his or something. Although despite calling himself the other guy's student, he hadn't been particularly young. To be honest, he'd looked pretty old. The night before, I was reminded of something that Dr. Takashina had said. This hospital isn't just for physical injuries, but also for mental ones. I hated hospitals, but that doctor had been very nice. He left a good impression on me, and I'd thought he was a good person. Well, even then, I'd still thoroughly fooled all the adults to the very end. That is, except Dr. Takashina. He'd seen through it all, and he was the one that had declared me completely recovered. If I can, get him to examine me. I wondered what he'd say if he learned that I'd become an otaku freak. Nah, there was no way he'd remember me after all this time. Diddly-diddly-dip. We still at the hospital? Yes. It didn't take long for me to be called into the examination room. I'd expected to be waiting there for quite a while, but I guess I was wrong. Why had there been so many people in the lobby then? Maybe they were being paid to sit there just to make it look busy. It was a different examination room than the one from 4 years ago, but when I stepped inside I was welcomed with a face I remembered dearly. Hey there, Nishijiro-kun. Dr. Takashina looked at me with a beaming smile. He hadn't changed a bit after 4 years. Feeling relieved, everything I was thinking spilled out all at once. Doctor, help me. What's wrong? A strange girl is stalking me. If I don't get help soon, I won't be able to go to school, and I won't be able to go home either. I can't relax anywhere, she might find me. Please calm down, Nishijiro-kun. I can't just calm down. There's something wrong with that girl. I'm perfectly normal. And not just you, that demon girl. Yeah, that demon girl. That demon girl is the true culprit. The true culprit? The new gen culprit. There's no doubt about it. I was at the scene of the crime right when the corpse was being crucified, and I saw that girl. Everything's going to be alright, you needn't worry. Well, for now, let's take a deep breath and relax. How does that sound? Having been admonished by him, I stopped talking. I didn't understand how he knew everything would be alright, but he was a professional, not to mention Dr. Takashina, so I guess he must be right. That's what I told myself. My breathing was ragged, likely thanks to getting so worked up. I took a deep breath. Dr. Takashina stared fixedly at me. What concerned me, however, was that the look on his face was pretty serious. Is everything really going to be alright? Of course! Even though such a dangerous girl is coming after me. How can you say that for sure? Would you like to know why? When I nodded, he lightly shrugged his shoulders. He spun the pen in his hand around his fingers, likely out of habit. Well, it's quite simple. After all, that girl does not exist in this world. What? But... You are merely terrified of your own delusion. His tone of voice was so gentle, it was eerie. I started trembling all over. I couldn't stop it. Why was this happening? Even though Dr. Takashina was being so nice, he... Nishijiro-kun, you've never seen that girl in reality, do you understand? No, I don't. Well, how about I put it more clearly? There is no conceivable way that you could have ever seen that girl. Because... for the past 7 years... you've never... taken a single step... out of this hospital. Okay, cool. What the fuck? Huh? What the hell was he? You've been hospitalized in the psychiatry ward here for 7 years. You are aware of this, yes? Aware of... what the hell was he talking about? How could he casually spout off such insane bullshit with a smile on his face? I inadvertently glanced down at the clothes I was wearing. When I'd come to the hospital, I was wearing a denim long-sleeved shirt on top of a blood-tuned t-shirt, along with the only pair of jeans I had. That was the outfit I should have been wearing. But for some reason, I was now wearing a hospital gown. A one-piece, coloured a pale yellowish green. A simple piece of clothing tied together with a cord that hung in front. I wasn't even wearing shorts down below. When did I change clothes? This is an isolated hospital ward, where no visitors are allowed. Hospitalized patients are divided into different floors by gender, and you cannot go between them. Every nurse in this psychiatry ward is a man. Your hospital room houses only you. There are no windows either. In other words, you've not had contact with a single woman in 7 years, including your own family. Do you remember now? He was lying, he had to be. I hadn't been hospitalized at all, I was living on my own in Shibuya. I was a pretty well-known high-level player in ESO, and I even went to school. Sure, I only went in accordance with my minimum attendance chart, but that was still 2 to 3 times a week. I'd even just had a fairly professional, cordial chat with the nurse at the reception desk. Is this your first time here? Yes, it is. Alright, then please fill out this form as you wait. You have to be lying. You have to. Do you truly believe that? As he murmured that, Dr. Takushina scribbled something on the medical form he was holding. I couldn't tell what he was writing. It wasn't Japanese, was it English? No. German. If so, your mental state must still be abnormal. We'll have to ensure you remain hospitalized here for a little longer. He gave me a single fleeting glance. His eyes were full of pity, even though he'd never looked at me in such a way before. Uh-oh. I collapsed to my knees helplessly, tears pouring from my eyes. Oh. I see. It all made sense now. All of my memories up until now had just been delusions. It was me all along. I was the crazy one. What a cruel twist that was. Then again, it wasn't like I cared anymore. Even if they were delusions, they weren't fond memories anyway. And I mean, I could just make new ones, right? This time, a world without scary murders happening around me would be nice. I'd have a sociable personality, get good grades, and have some crazy talent. I'd be super popular with the ladies. My friends would all be hotties, as hot as the hottest swimsuit models. And what's more, everyone would love the ever-loving shit out of me. Then I'd propose that we should all start living under the same roof, and after that my new life would begin. It wouldn't be easy, and it would have its ups and downs, and it'd be fun. There'd even be a bit of slapstick thrown in there. I forced myself to laugh. My face twitched. I wanted to die. Cool. Just a delusion. I abruptly came to my senses only to find myself sitting on a sofa in the lobby. A nasty sweat covered my entire body. A chill ran down my spine. Can you imagine having such awful delusions? That you convince yourself that they're real, and then they suddenly cut to reality. Unable to grasp what exactly was going on, I frantically looked around the room. Beside me was a hunched-over old lady. Her eyes were covered in wrinkles, so I couldn't tell whether she was asleep or awake. I took a look at the clock above the reception desk, and I saw that I'd been waiting in the lobby for a full hour. Had that all just been a dream? I hadn't slept last night, so had I dozed off while waiting? I gave a deep sigh of relief. It'd been a bad dream. It had to have been a dream, right? I tried remembering everything that had happened up until the day before. Nothing seemed out of place. My memories were continuous and consistent. I'd encountered the demon girl at the scene of the crime, and then I got deceived and subsequently threatened by Yua. Then I'd gone to the hospital to prove that I was of perfectly sound mind. Yep, everything added up. I wouldn't mind if it all ended up being a delusion, though. That way, creating another new delusional world that I'd go nuts in would have been much, much better. The fact that I was even thinking that that just went to show how utterly sick I was with everything that had been happening in my life recently. In the end, I found myself waiting for another 2 hours before my name was finally called. When I entered the examination room, it almost felt like the same events I'd seen in the dream were happening. Dr. Takashina had even appeared almost exactly like he had in the dream. It was probably just that he'd barely changed since the last time I saw him 4 years ago. How can I help you today? Dr. Takashina didn't say anything ridiculous like your memory's a delusion this time. But... well, I'm Nishijua. Ah yes, introductions are probably in order. My name is Dr. Takashina. It's a pleasure to meet you. He bowed his head cheerfully. I was lost for words. It's a pleasure to meet you. That was what he'd just said. He'd completely forgotten me. I shouldn't be surprised, it's been 4 years after all. But I truly believe that Dr. Takashina of all people would remember me. Maybe that was arrogant, but I'd hoped for it all the same. So my heart was overwhelmed with loneliness, an emptiness when those expectations were smashed to pieces. It felt like my very existence was being denied. Dr. Takashina started talking to me while making eye contact, but I averted my eyes. It's written here that you wanted to check whether or not you've been sleepwalking, yes? Should I take that to mean something's happened during your normal sleeping hours? Right. I'd written that on the questionnaire, but it was all meaningless now. He didn't remember me at all. Who cares if he doesn't remember? Whether he remembers you or not has nothing to do with anything he does it? Don't you dare go forgetting your mission. Oh, right. I hadn't come here to meet Dr. Takashina. I'd come here to prove that I was completely healthy and a sane human being. Our reunion was merely a bonus. Who gives a shit if he'd forgotten me? If Seira hadn't stepped in and given me that advice, I'd have been dangerously close to losing sight of myself. Whew. Is unconsciously doing stuff like going outside and typing sentences on my PC without remembering any of it, can that kind of thing happen? Oh? Someone I know pointed it out to me and I've been so confused. Do you think there's a possibility that this person is merely playing a prank on you? Yua's eyes had been serious. It hadn't looked at all like she was messing with me. At the very least, I had no doubt that Yua believed what she said. I'm not sure. I see. Also, what kind of relationship do you have with this person? A romantic one? What kind of relevance is that, Doctor? Where the hell had that come from? And what did it have to do with anything? Was I missing something here? Ah, well, that might not have been a good way of putting it. I'll rephrase it. Did this person know... did this person you know actually witness you walking around while unconscious? Oh, so that's what he meant. I shook my head. So that means there's no evidence of it. I once again shook my head. They acted like a detective, confronting me with evidence and stuff. I see. While we're on the topic, have you ever shown any signs of sleepwalking before now? No. Have you ever experienced waking up in the morning only to find yourself in a different location than you had gone to sleep in? No. So that would mean that the event this person told you about is the first time you believe you've experienced it, correct? After nodding weakly, I steeled myself and spoke. I haven't slept. Is that scaring you? If so, I assure you it isn't anything serious. Oh, no, That's not what I meant. But I couldn't figure out how to explain it, and it was too late to say it out loud anymore. I was too flustered. After scribbling something on a medical form, Dr. Takashina swiveled away from me in his chair and leaned toward the back of the examination room. Hazuki-kun, a moment, please. I made Hazuki-kun wear glasses. Okay. Of course, Doctor. Is that because of the patch I've got on? Is that what it is? The young nurse rushed over to him and Dr. Takashina showed her the form. As he did so, he whispered for her to do something and she quickly withdrew to the back of the room. What had that been about? The doctor turned back toward my puzzled self. Then, in a gentle voice, he began to explain to me how sleepwalking worked. When a person falls asleep, they first begin non-REM sleep before eventually progressing to REM sleep. Non-REM sleep is a deeper sleep where the brain hibernates and the brain activity ceases. Meanwhile, REM sleep is a kind of sleep where the body is resting, but the brain is active in a state that's fairly close to being awake. Sleepwalking is believed to more easily occur during non-REM sleep. With the brain not performing its usual activities, it's difficult for it to formulate normal responses. It can still respond accurately to a certain degree, however, even allowing actions such as climbing up and down a staircase without a single misstep. One cause of it is when experiencing severe mental stress. It can easily occur then. It's a common symptom in children, but it also occurs in adults. That should explain it, yes? That's what I meant by it being nothing serious. Okay. But I hadn't been sleeping. Even though I hadn't been sleeping, I'd still done things I didn't remember. The time Shogun had been posting from room 37 in the chat room should have been while I was busy playing ESO. Could sleepwalking really be possible there? I wanted to ask him that, but he was already moving to a different topic. There are many ways to check whether or not you've been sleepwalking. As for the most quick and easy way, well, we'd have you lie down on this bed right here. However, there may be certain conditions that need to be met in order for it to occur. For example, it might not happen if you aren't lying in your own bed. While you may be walking around in an unconscious state, you could be walking around aimlessly. Or you could be being driven by something compulsive, leading you to walk around with a series of goals. Moreover, it could also require specific conditions in regards to your mental state. For example, you'd be able to relax on your bed at home, but you'd have no way of relaxing here. Well, what do you think? Would you like to try sleeping here regardless? I had nothing to lose, so I didn't see a reason not to try. Then after I proved I wasn't sleepwalking, I could try asking the real question I had in mind. The nurse from before, Azuki-san or something, guided me over to the hospital bed located at the back of the room. As it wasn't a bed meant for sleeping, it was firm and uncomfortable. Then again, considering the sofa I'd usually slept on, that shouldn't pose any problems for me. I'll come to wake you up in about 3 hours from now. This nurse was pretty damn cute. As I lied on the bed, I took a quick peek at her face while being careful to avoid eye contact. Her baby face made her look kind of unreliable, and she even had this almost despondent aura about her, but she was doing her job pretty well. She felt like a heroine, right out of a classic eroge. Eroge? One with kinky hospital sex. I'll make sure to keep a close eye on you, so please relax and have a nice rest, okay? Basically, if symptoms of sleepwalking occurred, like I started wondering about on my own, she'd make sure to take care of me. Oh then, good night. After giving a slight smile, the nurse closed the curtain and left the hospital room. Now surrounded by a pure white cotton, I took a deep breath. All around me, I could hear the voices of doctors examining patients, the sound of nurses running around, and the sound of the door to the examination room opening and closing. Yeah, I doubted I'd be able to relax here. Could I actually fall asleep like this? Figuring I had nothing to lose, I closed my eyes. No matter what I did, my mind refused to think of anything other than that corpse that had been massacred and crucified with stakes, as well as the gory pictures Shogun had sent me. So I forcibly conjured Serotan into my head. Oh, as what did I do last time? Red. I guess we're doing green. Taki,
You're amazing for going to the hospital, even though you hate going outside.
I've forgotten what I did for her voice.
I've been thinking about this for a while now. But you're actually super duper strong, aren't you, Taki?
Seira animatedly moved about in my delusion. Her cute voice chirped for me.
I really love how strong you are. Also, Taki, you know, you don't sleepwalk, right? I watch you every day, so of course I'd know. I'm a gosh darn Taki expert. You can't let those 3D girls trick you. Besides, you've got me here, righto? Let's spend time in that container house again. Just the two of us. You big dum-dum?
Seira-tan, you're so cute, Seira-tan. She really was my ideal waifu. There wasn't a single woman better than her. 3D, the fuck was that? Ugh, I want to go home already. I want to go home and have Seira-tan welcome me back with a smile. Wait for me, okay, Seira-tan? I'll be coming home soon. Alright, let's see what's gonna happen now.
You don't have to go home.
What do you mean?
You know, since I've come to get you.
An incredible realistic whisper reached my ears. It felt almost like something was poking my cheek. I slowly opened my eyes.
Morning, you big dum-dum.
Beside the bed stood Seira-tan, pre-transformation Amanagawa Amano-gawa Seira version. And she certainly wasn't at 8th scale. She was life-size and she was moving smoothly. With a gulp, I sat up and then reached out to try and poke Seira-tan's breasts, because I'm gross.
Ah,
Whoa. It was squishy, voluptuous. She's no figure. She's the real deal. Seira-tan has joined the realm of 3D.
No, Sherry, this is 2D, of course.
Wait, it is, even though they're so squishy.
It's 2D squishiness, silly.
I didn't get what she meant, but as long as they were squishy, it wasn't like anything else mattered. I realised I'd touched her breasts out of sheer surprise, and I rapidly grew embarrassed. The life-sized Seira-tan was insanely cute, so Moa could die, and most important of all, she was real. Thanks to that, the bashfulness that came from me touching her breasts and the fear of her potentially hating me for it had become much stronger. I'm sorry, Seira-tan.
I don't mind if it's you, Taki.
Really?
Yeah. They would get real steamed if anyone did something like that to me. Especially guys like Suzumu. If that guy ever tries to grab me, I'll smash his patootie right to the moon with my bat. Shh! Quiet now. If you're too loud, the night nurse lady might find us.
Seira-tan must have been being mindful of the world outside the curtain. Without making a sound, she then took off her shoes, climbed into the bed, and then on top of me. Oh my god. Almost saying something out loud again, I hurriedly covered my mouth. Seira-tan was straddling me. Her bare panties underneath her skirt were pressing against my crotch. This was bad. My Johnson was about to go berserk. I'm really uncomfortable.
Hee hee.
Seira-tan drew her face close to mine. A sweet aroma filtered into my nose. So that was how Seira-tan smelled.
Hey, Taki, I've got an idea. You should become 2D too.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, you're still 3D, aren't you? So I'm going to make you 2D, just like me. Sound good?
Can you really do that?
Of course I can, besides. It feels super good.
I could hear the sound of the nurses hurriedly walking about, as well as the voice of doctors examining other patients. We're in a place separated only by a single curtain. If that curtain were opened, we'd get found out for sure. I don't know why he thought that he couldn't sleep here when he fell asleep on a sofa not so long ago, for like an hour. If he did fall asleep, that is. That heart-pounding thought, combined with the taboo nature of doing something like this in a hospital, I was getting lighthearted. And to think I was committing such obscene acts with my number one waifu. This is what bliss is. All other thoughts had been pushed out of my mind, and so in response to everything Seira-tan said, I nodded.
Now that's the spirit. That's what I love about you, Taki.
Then Seira firmly pressed her lips against mine. Yeah. Ah. She was so soft. Was this the softness of 2D? Was it more soft than the real thing? This sudden borderline H scene turned my thoughts into pure spaghetti. I had no idea what the hell I should be doing. Then in the face of my bewilderment, Seira pushed her tongue between my lips, encroaching upon my mouth. Huh? It felt so good I started to feel dizzy. To think a kiss would feel this amazing. I wanted her seductive swirling tongue to violate my mouth forever. My arms wrapped around her waist. She was very thin, since she was 2D and all, flat as a board and yet squishy and voluptuous at the same time. Wasn't this basically the same as kissing paper though? But it felt so incredibly good that I didn't care. Seira was terror sexy. Seira sucked in my tongue. It was too much, it felt like I was going to die. It was starting to get painful now. Seira suction was frighteningly strong. I tried pulling my tongue back, but I couldn't. She just sucked it even more. She was pulling on it hard. So hard that it felt like it might rip off. Uh-oh. And it wasn't just my tongue. The inside of my throat felt hot. My eyes felt like they were going to pop out of their sockets. I couldn't breathe. My chest hurt. The inside of my stomach churned and churned, turning into a pulpy, sopping mess. I was being sucked in. Everything inside my body, my organs, my flesh, my bones, they were all being sucked in by Seira. I could feel my pounding heart rising up from my throat, the thick blood vessels tearing off one by one. It was an impossible sensation. It was incomprehensibly painful, and yet it felt even more pleasurable. My entire body had become an erogenous zone. Yes, my entire body. Not just the outside. But the inside of my throat, my heart. My blood vessels, my lungs, my intestines. Having Seira violate the inside of my body, suck it all in and devour it whole, it made me so happy. And that happiness and the sheer ecstasy I was feeling, it made me feel faint. I'm gonna die. It feels so good that I'm gonna die. Uh-oh. This is not good, right? When's the delusion gonna stop? After everything inside my body had been sucked out, Seira pulled her lips away, satisfied. Her mouth was dripping with a mix of blood and drool.
Taki, you are so scrumptious.
She gave a bewitching smile. I didn't have the energy to respond. She'd taken everything I had. It wasn't the first time I'd ever experienced such overwhelming pleasure. I was in a total haze. Oh, no, it was the first time, sorry. Fog enshrouded my consciousness and my thoughts were a blur.
Go on, Taki. Give your body a little look-see. With this, you're now a permanent part of the 2D world.
Like literally sucking everything out so that it were flat. Although I was very unsteady, I tried to get off the bed and stand up. My body had become thin, just like Seira. It was kind of hard to walk around. My body felt limp and I could hardly stand. I fell to my hands and knees, hitting the floor without a sound. Seira, I can't get up. Give me a hand here. Her voice came from above the bed.
Welcome to 2D, Taki.
Boom. Alright. What a horrifying... So, even the green side gives us horrifying. I sprang up only to find myself on the bed like before. My heart was pounding like crazy. My heart was still inside my chest where it should be. I touched every part of my body. It wasn't paper thin. I was still 3D. I couldn't see Seira anywhere. As it should be. Oh, it was a dream. But was that a good thing? Or a bad thing? And I guess we'll find out next time on Borderline Games. That was frighteningly awkward at the end there. I felt like I was going to jump out of my skin, if you know what I mean. Alright, well, we'll carry this on next time on Borderline Games. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head. And I'll see you next time. Have a good evening. Bye bye.